Hello and welcome to Deploying and Managing Chromebooks. My name is Ben Forte. I'm the Director of Learning Commons at Devonport High School for Boys in Plymouth. With me is my Assistant Director, Dan Shaheen.
Hello.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate.
Good. Well, thanks for agreeing to join me on today's session, and going to keep an eye out for questions and you can put them across to me.
Looking forward to it.
Good. We'll start off just with a quick outline of what we're going to talk about in this session. So we're going to go over the basics of what a Chromebook is. I'm sure probably most of you by now know what a Chromebook is. If you've watched any of the awesome presentations that have been on for the rest of the day, you'll have got to see some snippets of that. You may already have some, but we'll just go over the basics of it just in case. Then we're going to talk about deployment methods and also about this management and using the management console. So what is a Chromebook? Well, I'm guessing pretty much all of you probably use Google Chrome as your web browser on your desktop. Well, a Chromebook is basically that. So you've got a laptop, you open it up, you log in, you're in Google Chrome. So the speed that happens is very quick. You're from off to on and logged on within sort of 8 seconds. So it's a very fast machine. It's like a laptop, but only cooler. So what do you get with a Chromebook? I guess you get these sort of things. So it's got the built-in protection. You don't need to worry about buying expensive antivirus. Updates are free and it just does it itself. You don't really need to think about it. It just updates whenever it needs to update. So network managers out there don't need to worry about rolling out new updates and bringing all the Chromebooks back in or doing imaging or any of that sort of thing. They can just chill out and relax in their office and get on with better things. So it starts up fast and it stays fast because Google are constantly working on updating it. They are always adding new features and making sure it stays efficient, doesn't get clogged up with all the stuff because the hard drives on them are very small. You can get different sizes, but generally they're going to be around 16 gigs. So you're not storing a lot of stuff offline. You're storing all of that data, which can bog down your computer in the cloud. So you don't need to worry about your computer gradually slowing down after time. The battery life on them is awesome. You're only charging them once a day, even with lots of use throughout the day. In our school environment, we sometimes get away with charging them every other day. Depends on your way you're set up. If you're in a kind of one-to-one environment, then maybe you're going to be using them constantly. But if you're using them in more of a trolley style setup where you're getting them in and out each lesson, then you can get away with not charging them very often at all, which is awesome. If you're in education, you need a device that's going to last the whole day. You can't be recharging it all the time. And I said before, everything's stored in the cloud, but you can store stuff offline. So if you do need to do some work and you don't have an internet connection, then you can still do that too. So what do you use on it? That's usually the first question everyone always says to me is like, what if I have a Chromebook, what can I do? I guess it's the fact that you're hopefully already using G Suite for education. So you've already got access to your slides and your documents and your sheets. So you can do all those productivity tools. I'm sure you've watched other shows today that talk about all of the different features of G Suite. So I'm not going to go into those too much. You've also got a complete Chrome web store, so you can install different apps from third parties and also from Google themselves. So anyone can register and become an app developer. At our school, we've encouraged students to work on projects and develop apps for it. I've made apps for them myself. So it's a great store. It's easily accessible, and you can develop stuff fairly easily. If you've got some sort of basic web development knowledge, you can be firing up your own apps, but there's also some amazing ones out there which are far better than I can ever develop. Stuff like GoAnimate for animations and GeoGebra. There's so many good apps on there. You just need to get on the web store and check them out. I'm a techie, so here's something a little bit more techie. They're so easy to manage, Chromebooks. You do need to buy the Chrome management license, which is about £19 generally per Chromebook. It's a one-off purchase. You don't need to renew it each year. It's just one time, buy it for that Chromebook, and that's it. You've got it then forever. When you've got that, you can manage the devices more easily. So you can track the assets. You can allow certain users access to certain features. You can deploy your network settings and customize just all of the different features for your users. We'll dig into that a little bit deeper in a minute. So, deployment. I always say that the hardest part about setting up a Chromebook is actually getting it out of the box, because they really are that simple to do. It takes you longer to get out of the box and get all the wrapping off of it than it does to actually deploy it. So step one, get it out of the box. Then when you turn it on, the first thing it's going to ask you for is for you to select your language. Generally, it's already on the right language, so you don't really have to do a lot there. And then you need to connect it to a network, because, like I said before, the Chromebook uses the internet for pretty much everything. So without a network, you've not got really much to do with a Chromebook. So you need to make sure you've got a good Wi-Fi structure already in place. You can wire them in as well, but wireless is going to be your best bet when you're using these sort of devices. So connect it up to your network. Then you need to press Control, Alt and E, and that's going to bring up the enterprise enrollment page. So by this point, you need to have bought your management license, and they'll all be loaded onto your domain. You don't have to do anything. You literally place an order and they're available. So you then get to your enterprise enrollment, you log in. We have ours in our domain configured so that any user in the domain can do this. So it means that if you want to, you can just give out the Chromebooks. If you're deploying them in a one-to-one environment, you can just give out the boxes. You don't even have to do that part of the job yourself. Give out all your Chromebooks to all the students. They can get them out of the box themselves. They can press their Control-Alt-E. They can type their username and password in, and they've enrolled the device onto the domain, and it will automatically pull down all the settings. So that's it. That tick you get when you've enrolled it, you're done. So the old days of having to get all your laptops in, get an image built for it, distribute the image out onto it, all of that's gone. You literally just are putting username and password in and you're done. Lovely. That's my favorite part as a network manager about Chromebooks, is I literally can get away with doing nothing. So next stage is the admin console. So when you'll be used to seeing this, I guess, already. If you've got a Google Apps domain, this is where you manage all of your users. If you're creating new users, if you're creating groups, email lists, and enabling and disabling different built-in apps from G Suite and extra stuff there's so many, there's about 60 something different apps in there that you can just enable and disable. So this is where you do all of your techie stuff. You can set this up so that teachers could have access to certain features. So you can make your own groups of their own permissions. So if you wanted to allow teachers to be able to reset users' passwords, then you can create a group that will just allow that to happen. You don't have to worry about giving them access to stuff that they shouldn't have access to. That's it. You can just set it up for however you want. So you'll see on that screen in the top right corner, you've got device management. That's the bit that we're going to be mainly talking about today. So when you go into your device management, you'll see a big long list of devices you've enrolled. So as soon as you've done that enrollment, they'll pop up on here. On my screen, in that bottom area there, you can just see some serial numbers of devices, and there's a field about 6 across that says user. Whichever user has enrolled it will put their username into that box already. And that's a really cool feature. If you're doing the one-to-one deployment and you want to know who's got what device, you don't really have to make a note of it beforehand. You can literally give out the whole suite of them to the room. They can all enroll, and Google will add all of their names into here for you. So you've already got all the serial numbers. You've got who's linked to who. You've got when it got enrolled, and all sorts of other cool stuff when you dig down a bit deeper into it. So you can organize them. Like we have at the school, if we want to have some for each department, we've set up OUs so that we've got a Chromebooks folder, and then within that OU we've got our business and enterprise, our English, the learning commons. So that's our modern, cool, awesome new way to do a library. So you can organize them however you want, and that means that you can deploy different settings to the different OUs. So if you want certain devices to be able to do different things in different areas, then you can do all that from here. So by default, when you enroll a device, it drops straight into the root of your domain, but you can then just easily move them to a different one, and they'll automatically just pick up all the settings that are applied at that level. So if you clicked onto one of the devices, this is the sort of stuff you'll see. So you'll get access to the hardware information, so you can see things like the serial number and the Wi-Fi MAC address and wired MAC address if it's got it. So and you can add like your own custom stuff in there as well. So if you want to track specific information about that Chromebook, you can. You can look at system activity. You can see who's logged on to it, where it was used. You can track it. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do just for that one specific device. Those three little dots I just highlighted in the top corner of the gray box there, where it's popped up with a deprovision and disable. Just pop that up. That's just a way of, if you want to get rid of them off your domain, that's where you go to do that. When they've been provisioned, by default, they automatically reprovision if you wipe one. So if someone stole a device and they tried to format it and try to go off on their own, as soon as they reboot it, it automatically goes back onto your domain and applies all your policies. So it's quite a handy little feature. So we also have, if I go back, this was like our device management. You also have Chrome itself management. So this is more the actual software side rather than the hardware side of things. You can see like how many active users you've got. And then below you'll see you've got user settings, public settings, and device settings. So you can configure settings that are specific just to certain users, or you can do public sessions. So that's like, you can have like guest login, I guess, onto the device so that you can configure the settings of the device when someone isn't logged in with a real account. You can just disable that, which we do. We don't allow any guest access onto our devices. And then also device-specific settings. This is purposely a very ugly slide. I was trying to think of a way of showing you all of the cool features that you can configure, but there's so many that basically there's no way I could put them all on a slide. These, if you look through there, it just shows you an array of all the sort of stuff that you can configure for a user. Basically, it's everything. There's a little link there at the bottom of that slide so that you can click onto that and get a full in-depth detail about each of those. So check that out afterwards. Device-specific settings, again, not so many, but everything you need, and another link there to get to it. So these are a few of the things that I picked out which I like to use quite a lot. And there's the stuff like I said there, like forced re-enrollment. That's on by default, I believe. Cloud print, if you're going to want to be able to print on these devices, then you can set up your printers and you can install like the free client on your server, which will allow you to be able to put your printers out there on the internet, and then your devices can print to them, which is awesome. If you want print management, then I would recommend like a product like PaperCut, which is really good. It allows you to restrict users to only be able to print within their credits, and add things like follow me queues so they can print to the printer but have to go to the printer to release it. So definitely PaperCut seems to be the best one. Most people that are using the G Suite and Google Apps will use that. Allow guest mode, we talked about that earlier. We don't allow that, but you may want to. If you've got like a machine in sort of a public area, maybe in your reception area, you could use that. These all these things you see here are just Chrome devices, so they're not actually specific to Chromebooks themselves. Like these could be Chrome boxes, Chrome bases, Chrome bits. There's all sorts of different Chrome devices available to you now. There's a key one down there: erase all user info, settings, and state after each sign out. I do tend to have that turned on devices that are like in trolleys or are more actively used by bigger groups of people. So that will allow you to keep the device clear. And if you don't do that, then the smallish hard drive that they've got on them is going to fill up quite quickly. So doing that just keeps the device clean. If you were deploying these one-to-one, then you perhaps wouldn't do that, because people don't want all of their stuff deleted every time they log off and have to wait for it to resync each time they log on. So it's a thing to bear in mind. If you're one-to-one, probably not. But if you're using them in shared environment, then I would probably have that switched on. Power management, show usernames and photos on the sign-in screen. That's, again, probably a preference down to whether it's a one-to-one deployment or shared. Generally, you're probably just going to want it to show a username and password box on the screen. Scheduling a reboot. Some of the updates will require a reboot. So if you schedule in certain times a day that you want that, then you make sure you're updating your devices at the right times for you. Okay, so app management. If you want to deploy apps, then you can do that from in the user settings. So apps are user-specific things. So you can go to this screen where you can manage whether people are allowed to install their own apps, whether they're only allowed to install like whitelisted ones or blacklist certain ones. So you've got whatever option you want. You can force install apps, which is quite useful. If you we use a product for our filtering called Smoothwall, and we want that. It has a client so it can track the web activity. So if we want to enforce that that's on every device, then we can manage that from there. This is just an example of how you would do it. You'd have clicked on to add a device, not add a device, add an app. Then you can search for it, search in the web store. You can, if you already know its ID, you can just paste its ID straight in there. But if you just want to search for it, you know the name of it, then you can search in here. And then you literally just click add and it will jump across to the right-hand side. And that's it. When you save that, you save on the next screen and that app will appear onto your users. You can also do device-specific settings. So that last one there was a user setting. Now we're on device settings. You can, what we do in our schools, we only allow users to log on with our email addresses. So like our @dhsb.org domain. We don't want them to be logging on with their personal accounts, because their personal accounts will allow them to do different stuff on the device. A cool feature which was added a little while ago now was this autocomplete domain, which is really cool. So people now only have to type in the first part of their username. They don't have to type in the full email address. That's made our students' lives a lot easier. Saves time typing about 8 extra characters. Getting towards the end now of stuff, unless anyone's got any questions, but this is a little tip for you. When we mentioned right back at the beginning about how quick and easy it is to enroll the devices on a domain. Sometimes the hardest part is actually joining it to your Wi-Fi network, because lots of Wi-Fi networks have all different security settings and stuff like that you need to worry about. So what I recommend, which is just a quick and easy thing to do, is if you can add an SSID on your network that's just open and allows you just to connect to it, and just don't have it site-wide, obviously, just have it something that you can just only get access to within your office. If you don't want it fully open, then even just something with a very, very simple key on it, just so that you can really quickly be able to join it onto the network. You can then, once they've joined that sort of fake network just to get the device enrolled, you can then deploy the real network settings back to the device using the management console. So you don't need to worry about, oh yeah, but how are they going to get onto our real Wi-Fi? You can do that yourself from the management console. So hopefully that has given you a quick insight into things. Not sure, Dan, whether or not there's any questions that people have got.
There's only a couple of questions come through, but
yeah,
they're mostly on purchasing Chromebooks and
Mhm.
the licenses. So there's a couple of questions where people can purchase Chromebooks from, and licenses and costs and stuff. So I've answered some of them on the portal, on the question portal, and basically said that they should probably get in touch with their local Google for Education partner.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm not sure whether on air whether we're supposed to give out specific suppliers or it's unfair or not. We've used various ones in the past. C Learning's one that jumps to mind as a very good reseller, and they're good because they're just dedicated to doing Google related stuff. So I like going back to them because they really know the products well, and they offer like training for your staff and things like that as well. So it's more than just a sort of device shipment place. They know Google Apps very well.
Yep, and there's also a edudirectory.withgoogle.com, which is a list of you can search there, type in your address, type in your country. We've got some questions about in Nigeria, where can you buy stuff from? So if you type into that where you are from or your location, that will come up with a list of local Google for Education partners that will be able to help you with that.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's all the questions really.
Yeah.
That's sort of,
Do you think I covered everything, Dan? Is there anything you want to add to that?
There's a question. So what if pupils bring their own Chromebooks into school? Can you bring them into your domain to control? It's just come through.
Yeah, but it's possible. You would have to pay for the management license, and you would need permission from them to do that, because once they've enrolled it, then clearly you're controlling their device, which they own. So people do it. I've spoke to other network managers and stuff around the place where people actually buy their own devices and then they bring them in and enroll them. If you're doing user settings, they will apply anyway. So you don't have to worry about the actual device settings themselves. If they're logging on with their school email account, then it will employ your user settings onto it. It's only the device level stuff that won't be available to manage.
And if it's their personal device anyway, they should be able to access all of the good Google for Apps Google Education apps.
Yeah,
and they'll be able to, as long as they're signed in with the school domain, then it should be fine anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have a good range of people that do have their own devices, and we have ones which we give out as well. So it's a good balance there, I think. You can also obviously use the same stuff on other devices as well, but the Chromebook for us is just ticks all the right boxes.
Yeah, that's all questions sort of covered. Nothing else news come through.
Cool. Nice one. Right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We have this slide deck available to you, so you can view that. And if you've got any questions at all and you think of afterwards, then you can post them up on there. Or I'm available on Twitter, Ben40Forte. So follow me. Happy to answer any questions. If you're localish to us in Plymouth and you want to pop in and have a look at the school, then feel free. We're a Google reference school, and we're happy to talk to you about all the cool stuff we do with Google and Google Expeditions and all the other cool things that Google offer to us for free. So yeah, if you're done, Dan, then I'm done.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, mate.